Everybody wants to make money, but nobody wants to learn value. And that's exactly why most people stay stuck working harder, chasing more, but never elevating their life. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how not to just increase your income, but also how to upgrade your life into levels which you've never seen. And it's only going to be by learning the value system. But most people are going to be playing the wrong game forever. They think they have a money problem and they need to go get another job, and that's going to fix it. But it's really not understanding value. That's the real problem. And maybe you feel like you're always busy and you're not really moving forward, or you're stuck trading your time for dollars or your W-2. While others seem to multiply the results effortlessly, then if that's the case, this message is going to be directly for you. But wanting to make money is not an issue. It's wanting not to learn value is the problem. And even as kids growing up in America, we're never taught how to value, and we're never taught how money works. We're never taught how to build assets or multiply or delegate our time, or even create value in a marketplace. We're only taught one strategy. Go to school, get some debt, or hope to get a scholarship and get a degree, and then hope someday that somebody gives you a degree with that piece of paper you have. But here's the truth. College isn't for everybody. Not everybody has the income to go to school. Not everybody has the grades to go to school. Not everybody has the scholarships to go to school, right? And some people go to school and they get a stupid liberal arts degree. And if you got one of those, I'm sorry, but that's probably not going to pay you in the real world. And even if you got the right degree, that isn't going to save you if your mindset is so programmed on just being a consumer and not a producer. Because you're going to get a good degree, a good job, and you're going to spend all your money. You're never going to produce anything. You're going to continue on this cycle, on this hamster wheel. See, the whole system was designed for you to be this way, to just be an obedient worker and never having a vision, or having a vision and putting action on it, never building on it. See, we're only taught how to spend money and not how to steward it. We're trained to just chase the comfort, right? You just want to have a good job. You want to be off on weekends. You want to have 2 weeks of paid vacation a year. You want to have a 401k. You want to have all these things of comfort and never creating solutions for anybody else outside of yourself. And that's exactly why everybody's stuck. That's exactly why the middle class is being squeezed. You're working hard, but you're not producing anything. And that's why this conversation matters. Because you don't get paid for what you do. You get paid for the value that you bring. And when you finally learn how to value what actually matters, which is your time, your talent, and your God-given assignment, then and only then will your income, your peace, and your life start to elevate to those unheard levels. But the problem is that most people think that value only means money. And money is actually just one expression of value. See, real value is understanding the importance of something or someone and respecting that person or that thing enough to treat it like an asset and not a liability. Look, when you're married in your relationship or your boyfriend, girlfriend, you're going to want to spend time and invest into that to make it greater. That's an asset. When you value a mentor, you're going to honor their time. And when you value a service, you're going to be willing to pay for it because you know that the return is going to be worth much more than the price. And that is what value is. The recognition of something that carries worth and the willingness to respond to that worth with love, honor, or money in exchange. The problem is we've been conditioned to consume without contributing. We want all this free game without sowing seeds. Everybody wants to, well, just tell me what you know for free. Just, hey, if you know how to do real estate and I'm trying to learn, can you just tell me exactly what to do? The thing is that if you don't pay for it, you're not going to respect it. Whether you pay for it with time or you pay with it for money, you're never going to respect it because you never had to sow any seeds to get it. That's like walking up to a farm you don't own and saying, hey, I'm hungry, give me some of your corn. No, it doesn't work like that. You got to be willing to put some work in, so whether it's sweat equity or you can buy some corn, right? We want the coaching without commitment. We want someone to spend all their time coaching, but then us turn around a week later and not be committed to taking the action that the coach has told you. We want relationships without responsibility. You want to be able to have a wife or a husband and then be able to do your own thing. It doesn't work like that. And value doesn't flow to those who don't respect it. You only attract what you appreciate. And if you dishonor value, don't expect it to show up in your life consistently. Matthew 7:6 says, don't give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you in pieces. See, what Jesus is trying to tell us is that when you spend the time, you give the game, you give the value to people who don't want it or who want it, and they don't actually mentally value what you carry, they're never going to appreciate it. They're never going to steward it, and then eventually they're going to trample it. They're going to use you up. They're going to abuse you, and you will think that person is valuing you, but in reality, they're just expressing their face value and not an internal value. And this principle isn't just to be applied into somebody on the opposite end of you. It also applies to you. If you don't value your time, your calling, your health, and your gifts, you're going to waste them away. And the world is going to take advantage of that, point blank, period. The world is going to devour you. You're going to get constantly getting beat up. So here's something you need to ask yourself as a person, as somebody that wants to value, somebody that wants to understand value. You need to understand these two questions. Am I valuing the gifts that God has given me? And am I living and operating at the mindset of a value creator, or am I just being a value consumer? Because until you learn value and learn to value the right things, you're going to continue to be a leech in life and a value consumptionator. And I know you're probably thinking, consumptionator? It's not a word, and you're right. I made it up. It's a compound word of consumption and ater, like Terminator, like something that destroys, which means that a person relentlessly consumes resources, energy, or value and doesn't even think to produce, contribute, or reciprocate any value in return. Now, part of the same reason as people being consumptionators is because of one lie that they were taught maybe as a kid or they heard growing up or they heard it in school, is that time is money. But the truth is, you're not trading time for money even when you have a job. You're trading value that you bring to a company in exchange for a little bit of somebody else's money. Even if you don't fully understand value you bring to your job, your workplace, or your community, you definitely are bringing some form of value, or your employer wouldn't have hired you to be there. Now, the truth is that the level of value you bring will be in direct proportion of the amount of value that you're going to receive. See, time and money share this one truth. They are both important and vital on earth, but they are different in the fact you can get more money, but you can't get more time. See, time is infinitely more valuable than money. You can recover from financial losses or bankruptcies, or maybe bad credit and get it better again, but you can never recover from wasting time. Once you spend the time, it's gone. Once you have the great memory, it's gone. Once you have the great vacation, it's gone. The next vacation, the same location, is not going to be the same as the last one. Maybe somebody passes away. You can never get that stuff back, so cherish your time more than anything. Because this means that time is not a currency. It's actually a seed. And what you plant and where you plant is going to determine your harvest in life. And thanks for tuning in this video. I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're getting value from the value that I'm providing. If you like this video, I'd love for you to connect with me at carlosbolton.com. And if you're in real estate, I'd love to invite you to a 5-day live challenge. Don't worry if you work a job. I understand. Every day is going to be recorded for you. But whether you're new, in real estate already, you're an agent, you're an investor, you're a fixed flipper, you're a landlord, whatever it is, I'm going to teach you how to be able to break into any market in America virtually and be able to increase, your revenue over $100,000 part-time per year, and even more. Me personally, I make much more than that. I have students that make much more than that. Some make $100,000 a month. But I'm going to teach you how to do it part-time, full-time, whatever you think you need. I'm going to show you exactly the skill set you need over the 5 days live. If that's something you're interested in, please go to mastermarketchallenge.com, and I'll see you back. The majority of people spend their time at work doing the same thing 30, 40 years, praying to retire at 65 if they live that long, just to spend their off times during the same years consuming and entertaining instead of growing and creating. Now, how many people spend time at work and at home scrolling social media, binging TV series on Netflix, complaining about their job? I can't stand going to work. I hate my boss. Right? But they go on every day comparing themselves to other people who just don't care about them. You have to stop the low value of things, or you'll end up wondering why your life is ending up so empty and lonely and boring and getting beat up by life. If you keep sowing time into nothing, you're going to reap nothing. It's a simple principle. In fact, I'm going to share a story that maybe you've heard and maybe you have not. Right? Back in the day, there was a long time ago, there was a landowner, which would be called Lord in this time frame, right? With a lowercase L, not like God or Jesus, but a Lord, like a landlord. That's where we get the name landlord from. But anyways, the Lord was taking a trip. He had 3 employees there on his spot, and he called them servants, and he was like, "Hey, I'm going on a trip far away, right? But I'm gonna give you something, and I want you to hold this for me, and do what you please, right?" And the money that they had at that time was called a talent. Now he gave one dude 5, another 2, and another one he got 1. Now the first 2 guys played it smart, right? They doubled what they had. One turned 2 to 4, one turned 5 to 10. They saw the value that they had, and they took action what they were given. But the last guy, he didn't value what he was given. So he buried it and just waited until the guy came back to dig it up, like, "Oh, look what I got here," right? He thought he was just doing him a solid, and he's going to save it. He played it safe, like most people. And this is exactly what the majority of people do, right? They play it safe. They ignore the value that God gives them through people around them or even in their own material possession. Now, maybe some people do this because they're scared. Maybe it's because they don't value what they have at hand. And they fail to realize that this behavior is actually going to end up causing them to have a punishment. Now, for us in the modern life today, we're going to get beat up by life. Maybe it's taxes, inflation, living paycheck to paycheck, or having multiple jobs, never getting ahead, and it's leading us to a mental strain, health issues, stress, maybe even like cancer and something like that. Because let's face it, stress is the leading cause of cancer, and one of the biggest stresses in America in households is money, right? But back to the story, right? So you got this landlord, and he left, and he gave them the talents, and some guys doubled it, and the other guy didn't. And he comes back and he says, hey, report to me where the money is. And the first two had good report. They multiply what they had, like I said. And then, this last one, he played it safe. He said, Lord, here, I got you this one because, I know that you make money in places which, aren't yours, and yada, yada, yada. And the dude looks at him and he says, you wicked and lazy servant. You ought to deposit my money with the bankers, and at my coming, I would have received it back with interest. Right? Then he took that one from the guy that just buried it, and he gave it to the guy that made the most money. He gave it to the guy that made 10. And the story ends for those, and it says, for to everyone who has, more will be given. And he will have abundance, but from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. Now, doesn't that sound like the average American? Isn't that like the middle class consumer right now getting killed in today's economy? This is exactly why American philosophy of playing it safe, go get a job, stay there till 65, trust the company with your money, let them invest it, right? Live on your 401k. It's failing society. And just like the majority of honest, hardworking people, that third servant, he didn't steal anything. He didn't lie. He didn't rebel. He played it safe. But yet, back in the scripture, which I just read from, I summarized for you, Jesus ended up saying that guy was wicked and lazy. Now, you might find that hard to understand, and that is because, safety at the expense of obedience is sin. Playing this small game when God has called you to be fruitful and multiplied is still disobedience. As hard as as hard as that sounds, as much as you don't want to realize that, that's what it is. But if you want more out of life and you want more for your family, then multiply what you have. Steward your time well. Use your talents. Invest your energy into the vision that God has given you. Stop living in fear and comfort and control, and start valuing what is around you and who is around you. Now, if you feel me with this and you're like, I'm tracking, right? And you're learning that time is money is a lie, stay with me for the remainder of this call. Because how many times have you heard someone say or live this way that they say just go get a job with benefits and stay humble? All that is a trap. It's a box. They want you to stay in there. That's what that's where they want to put you. And I'm not saying that there's something wrong with having a good job and good benefits that would take care of your family. But what I'm saying is that something is wrong with staying in the mindset of surviving and not multiplying. A job will give you wages, which is good for a time being, but is not going to teach you how to create profits. And that mental shift that has to take place in order to create the more value from what God has already given you is to understand that wages will make you a living, but profits will build your fortune. See, wage is set and based on what somebody else thinks your time is worth, and your profit is what you get when you create solutions to somebody else's problem. So if you solve big problems, you'll get big profits. For example, let's say you have a job and you know that job caps out at $35 an hour. But if you help someone make an extra $100,000 a year, you can probably charge them $10,000 to solve that problem in order to have that $100,000 result. Now, teach 100 people this in a group setting, or 100 people overall, and they all paid $10,000, you're going to make $1 million by teaching that same result over and over and over again. See, profits have no ceilings. And if you're willing to go out and solve the problems, then you're not going to have a money problem. The problem you're going to have is not making yourself findable for people to come and find the solution. But the best part about all of this is that Proverbs 14:23 tells us that in all labor there's profit, and idle chatter leads to poverty. Now, that word chatter in Greek means to babble or empty talk. So if you sit around all day and you're one of the dreamers, right, the American dreamers, you talk about what you want in life, but you don't actually get up and go get it, you're going to end up in poverty, because that's what the principle says. If you go out and put in some labor and some kind of solution, you're going to profit. See, God's not against labor, but he's against wasted labor. God didn't design you just to go to work for somebody else. He wants you to express the image which he created, and that image is a creative image, and that's who he is. So don't live every day just putting all of your energy into working a job. Put some energy into building the steps to the vision that God has for you. See, you're going to get tired. You're going to feel unmotivated some days. It's going to get hard. Being a creator is not easy. And we should know this by what God has created. And look at the world today. Look at the sin that's in the world. Look at the people that, are seeding the clouds and causing floods and killing little children and abducting kids and stealing kids and kidnapping them and, sex trafficking people. Look at all the things. Do you think God is happy with all of this? No, it's hard. It's hard to create something and then watch it, not work the way you planned, right? And that's where you're going to find yourself when you start business, you start trying to find solutions or creating solutions for people's problems. You're going to find that, your flesh is going to be tired. You're going to feel weak. But when you operate in the spirit, you're going to feel like strong. You're going to be like, what? I know there's a bigger purpose to this. But if you operate from the flesh, you're going to find yourself busy and broke. And that's just real talk. And most people are afraid of profit because they think that profit means that they're going to be greedy. Well, in the kingdom of God, profit is not greed. It's actually just a byproduct of the multiplication. See, Jesus didn't say, well done, good and faithful servant. You maintained in the story, of the talents, but he said, you have been faithful over a few things, meaning you have multiplied what I gave you. Now enter into the joy of your Lord. So let your job be the start. Let it be your seed, but let your vision be the thing that gives you the great harvest. And until you make the mindset shift from worker to builder, you're always going to feel stuck like dud in the mud. See, you always feel like you are being behind because wages were never meant to carry you into the God-ordained future. So you have to ask yourself, am I content with my wages right now? Am I good? Or I'm chilling, right? Or am I learning how to leave an inheritance to my children's children? And what's your priority, right? Are you okay with living the life of maintaining, or are you positioning yourself to multiply? Because the minute that you decide to shift yourself to multiplication in your mind and believe it in your heart, you're going to go from earning to producing. You'll stop chasing those small opportunities and you'll start creating bigger ones. Now, what I'm going to tell you probably isn't something that you were taught growing up, but it is one of the biggest mindset differences between the people who value and people who don't, right? Like I said, you don't get paid for what you do. You get paid for the value you bring. Say it again. It's not what you do, it's what you bring. And most people think that, I'm going to break my back for my company that I work for, I should get a pay raise. But the thing is, breaking your back isn't what the company values. What they value is, can you increase our revenue? Can you save us on cost, right? 9 times out of 10, it's not a work ethic problem and why you're not getting paid more. It's just a value problem, right? Think about it this way. You can spend 8 hours cleaning windows by hand and make $100, or you can develop a tool or a service like a streak-free window spray or an automated cleaner that goes up and down skyscrapers that does the job in half the time, better results, and sell it to 100 people for $100 each, right? Same effort up front, but completely different outcome. One is labor and the other one is leverage. And value lives in the land of leverage. One of the biggest differences between wealthy mindsets and party mindset is this. Rich people value time more than they value money. Poor people value money more than they value time, right? Put it this perspective. I pay somebody $115 every month to come cut my grass. They trim it up. They edge my garden beds, right? They make the yard look really nice, right? They pull up. There's 4 or 5 dudes that come out, right? 2 mowers, a couple guys in the edgers, the weed eater thing, and they're out in and out within 10 to 15 minutes. Now, if I were to do that all myself, or me and my son do that, that same job would take over an hour without a doubt. And I've literally had coaching sessions where I've earned $1,000 an hour helping somebody solve a problem they had to unlock the results in their business they want. So the question really is what's more valuable, saving the $115 in my grass, or earning 10 times that by staying in my lane and doing what I'm actually called to do? See, one option for me is to save money with labor. The other is to spend money and leverage my time to create that 10x result. I'd rather leverage my 115, let them do it, save the time, not lose an hour, and do something that I was designed or called to do. See, because when you waste time doing the low value task, you end up robbing your future of the high value opportunities. Another mental shift for you is that you need to consider when you're making all of this and you as a person on who respects the value, and it's changing your thought process from what does it cost to what is it worth. And just that one question is going to reveal everything about you. And that's exactly why people who invest in education, and I don't mean just college, because that's people, like I said, college doesn't teach you how to make money or live wealthy. It teaches you an outdated practice, preparing you to join a societal system. I'm talking about coaches, mentors, programs, trainings, going vacations, getting real world experience, seeing different cultures. Those are the people that are going to have those quantum leaps in the success in life. Because while others are trying to figure it out alone, they are all paying to collapse their time and save the mistakes by unlocking the insight and value from someone who has already done what they want to do. We aren't called to be jack of all trades. We got to delete this. Jesus wasn't a mason, a plumber, electrician, and a carpenter. He was the carpenter's son, and he was also a carpenter. When you're trying to do it all you are doing is getting stuck in exhaustion and not excellence. This is why when you're first starting out, like for instance, in one of my companies, we do real estate, we do wholesaling. If you're first starting out, I say find somebody in your area, wherever you want to work at, that has a lot of buyers. If you're wholesaling, and you focus on acquisitions, find the properties because they need properties to sell, and you can delegate the other task until you make enough money to be able to learn the other role. That's not a weakness. That's just wisdom, and that's knowing how to steward the value there, right? Learn who to invest in, what to invest in, who to partner, when to delegate. Proverbs 18:16 says, "A man's gifts make room for him and bring him in before great men." See, it didn't say a man's effort or degree or busyness. It said your gifts. That is your God-given value. It's going to open the doors for you. God said, knock and I'll open the door. But just be aware of what you are doing and don't get bitter when it doesn't come when you want it to. Focus on getting better every day in your calling. Focus on developing the value God placed inside of you. The world might look at you crazy sometimes. They might judge what you do, especially when you're first starting. They're going to say, you might want to get a job because this ain't working, right? Or this is never going to work. You might as well go get a job and actually better take care of yourself. And that's okay. But keep at it because the world eventually is going to reap from the benefit of value that you bring because of the focus you had and on your increase. And a few ways to increase, and the thing you want to do is, number one, read books. What's the first thing that they made sure that slaves are not allowed to do when they brought them to America? To read, right? Look at Frederick Douglass. He was not allowed to read, and he ended up getting himself out of slavery. He got back at slavery, got himself back out of slavery, and it was all because he learned how to read. That's it, right? Learn high income skills like sales, right? He even did some sales because he was trading, with the poor white kids in order to be able to learn how to read. So he was smart. He learned a skill that would lead him into a great life, right? Learn real estate investing. And one thing, I'm going to break this myth tonight. You don't need money to invest in real estate. All you need is to develop a skill set and connect with people. That's it, right? Now, stocks. If you learn stocks, you're going to need some money to put in stocks, right? Unless you're a stockbroker and you're playing with other people's money, making commission on that. But that's not for everybody, right? Not everybody's doing that. But those are just a few things. And the best part is that if you sow into a mentorship or tap into a group of wise people, you'll learn how to increase your value and God will increase your visibility. Now, when I say invest in mentorship, I don't mean everybody's mentorships, right? Because some people out there are really scamming you. But what I can say is due diligence, find their testimonies, hear people that have worked with them in the past, right? Like if you go on my website, carlswell.com, you can find testimonials, you can find video testimonials. I can't make other people say things about me. I don't even, even if you paid somebody, you can tell that their voice is ungenuine. All of my stuff is actual people I've worked with and had results. So that's what you want to look for. Now, Scripture tells us, right, to plant and water, but God's going to bring the increase. So the bottom line is that if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this, that God doesn't reward just consumers at all. He actually rewards stewards. Everything I've said, from time to money to mentorship to mindset, it all comes down to this one thing. Are you multiplying what God has gave you, or are you just maintaining it? In Luke 16:10 says, "He who is faithful in what is least is also faithful in much." You're not stewarding value in the small things. Why would you expect God to increase you with more? This is exactly why people stay stuck. They pray for more, but they don't value what they already have. They ask God for the elevation, but they're still playing small and with what He's already entrusted them with. If you're not being faithful with a $1,000 gift, aka a check, why would He bless you with a $10,000 calling? And you might be saying, "How's my check a gift? How is me making $1,000 a gift?" And it is a gift because everything that you have is a gift from God, whether you like it or not. If you don't believe me, read James 1:17 when it says, "Every good gift and every perfect gift is from the Father of lights." This means that time is a gift, your job is a gift, your skill set's a gift, your mind, your voice, your influence, your family, everything is a gift. And how you treat that gift is going to determine whether you're ready for more. You can't pray for increase while you dishonor what's already in your hands. See, God isn't just watching your hustle, He's watching your stewardship. And here's the truth. Elevation is not going to be random, it's going to be rewarded. And a reward follows to those who value what heaven has already gave them. See, God doesn't want you to be perfect. He just wants you to be faithful. So don't leave this video feeling inspired. Leave it activated. Make the calls, send the messages, start the business, sow the seeds, honor the connections. Because you're not just called to survive, you're called to multiply. So value the value in your time, your calling, your gifts, your people, and watch what God does with it. And as always, if you like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Connect with me on my site, carlosbolton.com. It should be in the description below. I'll catch you in the next video and stay blessed by the best.